I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, a number of topics I'm going to talk about today, including I'll finish it off with a little bit of a rant. Haven't done one of those for a while on the state of the economy in Canada and the mismanagement by Trudeau and this Liberal NDP co-alliance that has really driven Canada into the ground here. I don't think a lot of people realize how bad it is, and I think it's far worse than a lot of people think. So I'll finish it off with that, give you some stats here. But one of the first thing I want to talk about is remediation on a condo, special levies, engineer reports, and how best to handle those. Every month I probably get a call from somebody just out of the blue saying, "Owen, I follow your blogs or I've read your book. I'm in a strata, we've never met, I'm in a strata out in Coquitlam, or I'm in a strata in downtown Vancouver or Richmond. And I just wanted to run some things by you. We've got some problems, you know, we've got some balcony issues that are leaking, and we've got a remediation, we need to remediate the balconies, or we've got issues with the window or roofs. We've had a depreciation report done, we've had an engineering study, and we've got to spend $2, $3, $4 million to fix the balconies or do some exterior remediation. And we've ran it to a vote at an AGM or even called an SGM, and it keeps getting turned down. You know, what do? The problem is getting worse, but we can't get enough owners on board to approve the levy to get this work done. Have you ever had this problem? And yes, what you've described to me, I've heard 100 times before. Think of a strata, as my dad used to say, as one big dysfunctional family. That's what a strata is. You've got 100, 150, 200 owners. Everyone's got their own ideas on what to do. Everyone's got their own opinions on things. Everyone is in a different financial situation, which makes a big difference as well. Some people might be on fixed income or retired. Others are pulling down $200,000 a year. Others are broke. Others have got, money in a bank account. So a few things that I will tell these people. And what they'll say too is that, a lot of times they're investors, they're not principal residence owners. And they'll say, that they keep voting down these votes, these special levy votes. And then other people would say, well, hey, I might not be living in the building for more than 2 or 3 more years, or I think I'm going to probably sell next year. Why would I approve a levy for $5 million? I'm going to sell later this year or next year. Let somebody else worry about those levies. So I'm going to turn them down and vote against them. What do? Well, I tell these people, I say, it's a bit of a mess here. And yes, I've heard this problem. It's very common. Again, the strata is one big dysfunctional family. Some stratas are far better than others. They're not all the same, that's for sure. I can comfortably say that all the stratas I own into are fairly well run, proactive. But of course, being a realtor, I did my due diligence, and I do that for my clients, on getting them into good strata that aren't putting off remediation projects or turning down work that needs to be done. The strata that I live in as my principal residence is incredibly well run, very proactive, large contingency fund. If anything needs getting done, it gets approved every single time. We just did elevator upgrades. We put a new roof on. 10 years ago, this building had a big remediation project before I bought. It was something like $8 million and was approved immediately by the owners. Now, part of the reason is that my building has very few rentals. Only about 4 units currently are rented in my strata. It's larger units, mostly 2 and 3 beds. So there's not a lot of investors. It's owner occupied. And it's a little bit more of an older, well-heeled demographic. So the owners here have some money for the most part. So when they need $1 million or $2 million, we can get that vote passed. Not all strata are in that position. A lot of stratas in downtown are 60, 70, 80% investor owned. And that's a pet peeve of mine as well. I don't know if you guys are aware that up until recently, up until about 1.5 years ago, when you ordered the Form B and the financials on a strata, on that Form B, it would tally the number of Form Ks. That's the form that you need if you're an investor to rent out a unit. So it would show you how many units are currently rented in a strata. It was good information, showed you the percentage. But for some weird reason, and I've been on the board for a while now to start getting this back, they do not put that. Once they remove that rental restriction that the province removed, allowing rentals in every strata, they took away that number that was on the Form B, which is dumb. Now, luckily, I still have a pretty good database, and I know a lot of these stratas, especially downtown, so I know what the ownership makeup is. How many are principal residence owners? How many are investors? Investors tend to defer stuff. But what I would tell these people, you've got a few problems here. The first thing is, if you're deferring things like balcony membrane issues or roof or leaking in the exterior or windows, the engineering company is telling you straight up that the longer you delay that kind of thing, the more money it's going to cost you in repairs because the damage piles up. What is $2 million now could easily be $4 or $5 million 3 or 4 years from now as more water ingress gets in there and causes more damage. The other thing I tell these guys is that for those ones that think, hey, I'm going to sell in another year or two and vote these down, you're sadly mistaken. It's too late. Once you call an SGM or once you call an AGM or once you get a depreciation report that spells out those issues and that remediation work and the cost, what needs to be done, it doesn't matter whether if you turn that vote down and don't approve it, it doesn't matter. Because now you've discounted your unit by that and then some. Because any prospective buyer, of course, before they put an offer or after they put an offer in on your home and before they remove subjects, they're going to get all the strata documents. And if the realtor's doing his job or her job, which he should be, and the owner or the buyer is doing his due diligence, they're going to read that depreciation report in full. They're going to look at all your minutes, the AGM, SGM, and they're going to see that over the last year and a half, you've turned down a vote to redo the balconies 2 or 3 times. Well, they're going to look at what the cost is of that. If it's $25,000 per owner, they're going to take that and double it, knock $50,000 off their offer. So you're not doing really yourself any favors by deferring that maintenance work. But of course, the buyers are going to discount it once it's in your docs, and the damage is going to get worse and cost you more down the road. But of course, there's a lot of people in a situation that just can't do it. They probably would say, I would love to vote yes for this, but the levy is going to cost me $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, who knows? A one-time charge that has to be paid in 30 days. Sometimes on some of the larger ones, maybe $50,000, $60,000, the strata might say, okay, we'll break it down into 2 payments, $25,000 due now and another $25,000 in 3 months. But for a lot of people, they just don't have that spare $50,000. As much as they know the work needs to be done, they don't have the money. In some cases, if they've owned for a while, they've got some equity in the home now, and they could go to the bank, take out a home equity line of credit or whatever else to pay that levy. But a lot of people don't have that luxury. So it can be a mess. But it only is going to get worse by deferring it. Cost you more down the road, and once it's documented in your minutes, it's too late. They're going to discount that out. If you're planning on selling down the road, you're not going to get anywhere near market value. Too late. It's in the docs. Final thing I'll just leave you with here. Just talk about interest rates. Interest rates coming down. We had a 50 basis point cut last month. As I speak, we've got another Bank of Canada meeting on December the 12th. I'm expecting, from what I'm hearing, another 50 basis point cut. And then I'm expecting 1 or 2 more in the first quarter of 2025. So rates are coming down. I see a lot of people that are confused about inflation. Inflation is down. Why don't we stop the cuts? People need to realize something here, and this is my rant, that inflation has been tamed. It's running at 2.6% or something. But these interest rate cuts now are not so much about inflation, they're about the economy. And, as that 50 basis point cut we got definitely gave a boost to the market. Those quarter point hikes did nothing. The summer was very slow. We're finally picking up a little bit here in the market. That 50 basis point cut made a big difference. Sales for October were up 30% month over month. I think November, December are going to be pretty decent months as well, especially as we get more cuts. But there is still a drag on the market, and it's not so much interest rates, it's the economy. People are worried about this economy, as they should be, and they're worried about their jobs. And I think that's still a bit of a drag on the real estate market. And I don't blame them. The Canadian economy is a mess right now. It is being masked by things like immigration, things like upping the capital gains tax earlier this year, which pushed forward hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s of tax revenue, which softens the books a little bit. So, we're in a real mess here with this Liberal government. Now, Trudeau has to go. He is the worst prime minister in the history of this country by far. Him and Christina Freeland, they have no idea what they're doing. At last I looked, $65 billion deficit. Just the interest alone on the deficit we're currently paying is more than what we're paying for healthcare in this country. It's crazy. So he's going to be ousted here, Trudeau, in the next election next October. Of course, his ego is too big to call an election early, which he should do. But, we are in some real financial trouble here in Canada. And look at the Canadian dollar, or what I call the Canadian peso. It's now at I believe, a 4-year low. It's going to cost you about $1.41 Canadian to buy a US dollar. So, as I've said on my Saturday blogs over the years, guys, try and insulate yourself as much as possible. The Canadian economy is not good. For that reason, I've told you guys that 90% of my stock portfolio now is in US equities or ETFs in US dollars. And, the US dollar has been one of my best performers over the last couple of years. And I would advise you guys to do the same. Canadians have, that do have money invested in the stock market have far too much in the Canadian stock market. You should probably get most of your money out of the Canadian stock market, get into US equities. And part of the reason for me, as I've told you guys, I spend a lot of time in the United States. When I retire and semi-retire, I'm planning on spending about half the year in various cities in the US. So for that reason, I don't want to be at the whim of that crappy Canadian peso, which I'm not. All I do now is when I'm ready to take a trip to Hawaii, I'll take $5,000 out in dividends out of my US holdings and put that onto my US Visa card, and I'm not at the whim of the exchange rates. So I've insulated myself. And I don't think the Canadian dollar is going to get much better here. Not with our economy. Every time we raise lower interest rates, it knocks another penny off the Canadian peso. So it's really crazy. I hope more people wake up to the state of our economy now and how we need a change. We need to get out of this Liberal NDP coalition. It's been horrible. We need to turn a leaf here and get this country going in the right direction. The final thing, as you guys know, I'm a proud Canadian. We should all be flourishing in this country, in Canada, one of the greatest countries in the world. We've got an educated workforce. We've got clean air, fresh, clean drinking water. We've got natural resources that are abundant. But we're not business friendly here, and we tax everything to death, just like the NDP in BC here does. People should wake up to this. We should be thriving. We should be one of the most wealthy countries in the world, but we're not. The final thing I'll leave you with, just have a look at how we have completely separated from the US in the last 10 years. Up until 10 years ago, our standard of living was matched with the US pretty much. We had a good standard of living here. 9 years ago, it separated. US has continued to go up. Canada has dropped off. Why? Well, 9 years ago was when Justin Trudeau came in, started taxing everything to death, restricting business, not a free enterprise country, and started spending money like a drunken sailor. And this is what you get. A weak dollar, a weak economy, and a weak jobs market. So be careful, but I think that interest rates are helping the market, but we've got a drag right now with the economy and the job market. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. See you next week.